credits.
Just for another chat, and then I saw her in the crowd, and I looked her in the eyes.
Good morning. Shell around a red supergiant star called Mu Cephei. Basically what we found, it was really close to the star, really close in, and it was time varying as well. So over a period of a couple of months it changed its shape quite a lot. It was extremely asymmetrical, which is really exciting. And I'll be starting some work on galactic rotations and spins in the upcoming months. So let's dive straight in and answer some of your questions, guys. Thank you for sending them in. I'm just going to shuffle these cards and pick one at random. All right, so first up we have one from Macquarie. Is there any planet that we know of made out of water? So awesome question. That actually is a bit difficult to answer. In our solar system, we're of course searching for water in as many places as we can, and we found that there's definitely evidence that liquid water was on Mars, and what we're interested in is the water below Mars, below the sort of crust of it, but also we know that there's water on some of the moons of Jupiter, which is really exciting. We know there's lakes of water down there, which means it's a really good potential spot for life, which is exciting. So great question, thank you. All right, let's shuffle, pick another one. So this one's from Jasmine, and it's how many stars are in stars? In fact, there's a rough estimate of maybe a sextillion of stars. That's one followed by 22 zeros after it. That's roughly how many stars we think are in the universe. So if you compare that to the number of grains of sand on Earth, they're roughly equal. So there are so many stars in space, plenty to study, lots of different types of stars, and there's billions within our own galaxy alone. So lots to study, really exciting. So thank you, Jasmine. All right, next up is we've got one from Niam who says, why does the universe never end? It's actually a bit of a difficult question. We actually don't know if the universe ends or not. We have what's called the observable universe. So light has a certain speed limit that it can't exceed. It can only go at a certain rate or a certain speed. That's around 300 kilometers per second. So nothing can go faster than that. It means it takes time for light to travel to us. So for light to travel from the sun to Earth, it takes roughly 8 minutes. But from our nearest star, it's several billion years. So it's a long time. And essentially that means that we can only look so far in the universe because the universe is around 13.7 billion years old. And so the light can only travel so far in that time. So you have the observable universe, which is all that we can see because it's all the light that's been able to reach us. But beyond that, we really have no idea and no way of knowing what's beyond that. So the universe may be infinite, but not beyond that, but we really don't know. We do know that it is finitely old. So it is only 13.7 billion years old, but we don't know how large it is beyond the observable universe. Thank you for that question. So we're going to go to our first video question. This one's from Lachlan.
Hello, my name is Lachlan. I'm in Year 2, and my question about space is, can anyone survive a black hole?
Thanks, Lachlan. Great question. Short answer, no. In fact, the gravitational pull in a black hole is so strong that as you fall into this black hole, the gravitational pull at your feet compared to your head is so different that you would be stretched and pulled until you explode before you even reach the black hole. So no, you can't survive falling into a black hole. God forbid you ever actually do fall into a black hole. But hopefully one day we will be able to understand what happens beyond this event horizon. It'll be really exciting. But no, sadly, not yet, no. So I'll do another written question. Shuffle these cards. This one's from Christian. It says, if Pluto is the furthest from the sun, why is it not the coldest planet? So thank you, Christian. Fabulous question. It's actually because Pluto is not a planet. If it was a planet, it would be the coldest because it is the furthest from the sun. But since it's not, Neptune is actually the coldest planet. But the reason Pluto is not a planet, it may seem sad that it was a planet and then it's been demoted, but it's actually a really fabulous story. In fact, when we first discovered Pluto, it was kind of by accident. And we're really excited to have found this fabulous planet. It was really great. But as we learnt more about our solar system and as we learnt about other objects in our solar system, both beyond Pluto and within the asteroid belt around Mars and Jupiter, we actually found when you compare Pluto to planets and you compare it to other astronomical objects like asteroids, it didn't fit in with planets. It was sort of not at all related. It was much closer to the objects in the Oort cloud or the Kuiper belt, much further out around the orbit of Pluto, and it shares its orbit with a lot of other objects. So when it was demoted from a planet to a dwarf planet, it's actually really good news for Pluto because it was finally sort of classified as what it truly is, and it means that our understanding of the universe is growing a lot more. So it's very exciting news, but if it was still a planet, it would be the coldest one. Since it's not, it's actually Neptune. Now, I'm going to move on to our second video question of the day. Let's have a look from Abigail.
Hi, my name's Abigail, and I'm in kindergarten. My question about space is there a sun in space?
Sorry. So bit of an issue there. I must have had a solar flare messing with our camera there. So thank you, Abigail. It was a fabulous question. Is there sun in space? Well, there's obviously our sun, and there's lots of other suns. As I mentioned earlier, there are billions of suns in our galaxy alone, and each of them is showing off heaps of light, is emitting heaps of light. So it's really bright and fantastic light. So yes, there is sun in space. There's a lot of light coming from lots of different stars, galaxies, objects, all of these different things. So fabulous. Where do black holes take you? So a great question, Jack. And do you know, as astronomers, we essentially ask this question all the time. We really have no idea because in a black hole, it's called a singularity, and what that means is we have no idea what happens there. When we get to that past the event horizon, or when we really get into that black hole, all of maths and physics breaks down. We don't understand what's going on, and we have no way of looking at it. They're called black holes because we can't observe them. So where does a black hole take you? We have no idea, and it's a really great question that basically all of astronomers and astrophysicists are asking. There's a lot of theories out there. Einstein thought it might have been sort of a pathway, like a wormhole that may transport you to another area in space, but there's really no way of knowing at the moment. Maybe one day when technology allows it, we will be able to determine it, but for now, it's just a big question mark. No idea. So let's do another question. Thank you for that one, Jack. This one's from Daniela, and it says, can the sun grow? It's actually a really great question. At the moment, it's in a fairly stable stage. It's called its main sequence stage. So it'll spend most of its life, and it won't really grow while it's in this stage. But in about 5 billion years, the sun goes into what's called its red giant phase. So that means it's going to blow up in size to many times the size it is now and potentially engulf the Earth, so it can grow to the size of our orbit, and it's going to turn into this reddish color. Astronomers are very creative. That's why it's called a red giant, because it's going to be red and it's going to be really big. And so this giant star is much larger than what it is now. And that's when it's burning a new type of fuel. It's actually the beginning of the star's death, which is really sad, but it's a spectacular event when it balloons up, and as it goes through all its fuel and it slowly dies, it will eventually turn into a supernova and explode, and it's one of the most spectacular events in our universe. Truly beautiful. So thank you for that one, Jack. It's a fabulous question. Okay. Sorry, that was Daniela. Thank you, Daniela. All right, this one is from James, and it says, what is Earth made of? Again, a fabulous question. The Earth is made of lots of things, and it's very helpful for us because that's how we formed. Mostly, we've got lots of different layers in the Earth. So in the center, we've got a core that's got iron in it, a liquid iron, and that's what gives us our magnetosphere, or sort of like a giant magnet for the Earth, and that's what protects us from the sun a lot. But beyond that, as we move further out, we've got the crust, which is where we live on. That's the ground, and that's made of a lot of silicates. That's got a lot of oxygen. I think it's around 70% of oxygen. And then beyond that, we've also got the atmosphere, which, thank goodness for that, again, saves us. The atmosphere has got a lot of ozone that protects us. It's also a lot of nitrogen. So it's made up a lot of elements and a lot of silicates, which is sort of groups of elements together. Great question. Thank you, Jack. Sorry, James. We're going to move on to our last video question of the day.
My name is Noah, and my age is 7. My question is, how do black holes form?
Thank you for that one, Noah. How do black holes form? What a great question. It's actually, I kind of mentioned it a bit earlier, it's one of the most exciting events in the universe, at least I think. So when the star was dying, when it blows up to that giant red giant phase and turns into a supernova, it explodes all of this gas out and this matter out, but the actual event results in a black hole at the end. So it's for those really massive, massive stars. So unfortunately, I don't think our star will become a black hole, but those really massive stars that are, 10 times the mass of our sun are going to explode in these supernovas and result in a black hole in the center. So that's a really spectacular event. We have supernovas that occur very frequently, and as we increase our technology and our ability to observe them, we see these supernovas more and more, which is fantastic. So thank you for that one, Noah. We're going to move on to our last questions of the day. The questions of the day, well, there's actually 2 today, so congratulations to both our winners. First up is James. So you've won an astronomy goodie bag, James, for your question, is there anything living on the other planets? Again, great question, James. That's what we ask ourselves all the time. Fingers crossed, we really hope so. I think all astronomers are really positive that there is life out there, but it's a matter of finding it, and why haven't we seen it yet? So in our solar system, again, we're not sure yet. We haven't seen any evidence for it, but given the number of stars that we see, so 1 sextillion of stars in our universe, and most of those stars have planets orbiting around them, so there's chances are that there's an Earth-like planet that's just the right amount of distance away from its star that it can have liquid water, ice, and gas water, or water vapor, and that would be just perfect to create the conditions for life. So we haven't yet found it, but we're all very hopeful. And our second question of the day comes from Hugh, and it says, how are the planets made? That's a really great question. It's really wondering what happened to make us, how did our solar system form, and how will other solar systems form? And it's a very complicated question. Astronomers have been trying to think of it for a long time, trying to understand the processes. And generally what we know so far is when this star dies and it spurts out all of its matter, turns into a nebula. And so it's just this cloud of dust and gas. And slowly, over millions of years, these gas particles and dust particles will clump together and slowly orbit around each other, swirling in and clumping together into groups. And this star will form at the center, and all these planets will form around it. There's a lot going on in these processes, and in astronomical terms, it's actually a very fast process, only taking a few million years. Never ask an astronomer to dinner because they'll be late by several million years. But planets are a fairly speedy process when they form, but the intricacies of it, we actually don't know. It's really hard to observe planets as they're forming because there is all this matter around them, all this gas and dust that acts as sort of a blindfold for what's going on. So hopefully as technology improves and our telescopes improve, we can really see the details of these planets as they're forming. So congratulations to Hugh and to James. You've both won a goodie bag. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening and sending in your questions. It's been an absolute pleasure answering them. There are some incredible questions. So I hope everyone stays curious, and thank you for coming to watch Wake Up to Astronomy.